Hey everyone, it's Cassandra with Spokehaven, and today I'm going to go through one of my personal favorite bikes that I've had the longest out of any of the bikes in my fleet. I wanted to do a series just kind of showing off my bikes, changes I've made to them, and different qualities that I like about them and why I purchased them and why they have stayed in my fleet for as long as they have. So join me today. We're going to go over my Soma Double Cross. I'll kind of go through the different details of the build and why I chose them, and this bike's been through a few different iterations actually over the years since I purchased the frame and fork. So if you want to see those, go to spokehaven.com. They're on my blog. It goes over kind of my different builds that I've done throughout the years with this frame and fork setup, but today I'm going to go over what it looks like now and why I chose those components. So.
Dang! You got shocks, pegs, lucky.
So this is the Soma Double Cross. It is the original cantilever / V-brake style of the bike. I don't quite remember which model year this was. Maybe, I want to guess 2013 possibly, maybe 2012. I don't quite remember. What I do remember is I bought this frame and fork to replace a Surly cross check that I previously had, and I didn't mind the cross check. It was a good bike. It got me through my first long distance charity ride, but there were some things that I wanted to change, and I felt that the frame and fork could have been a little bit higher quality. So that's part of the reason why I decided to purchase a Soma Double Cross. So I did some research. I saw that the frame and fork was actually a little bit lighter and a little bit nicer than kind of what Surly was offering at the time. So I went ahead and purchased a frame and fork and did a custom build. So I wanted to kind of start with the cockpit of the bike. So it hasn't changed too much over the years. Please don't mind my very poorly wrapped handlebars. I do change handlebar tape pretty often on my bikes because I like to try lots of different things and give feedback to the customers in my bike shop as to performance and thickness and kind of different qualities of bar tape. So it's pretty embarrassing. I promise if I work on your bike, I'll do a much better job. So these handlebars are the Nitto Noodle bars. So these are a 40 centimeter bar. And I originally had tried the Nitto, however you want to say it, Randonneer bars, but they were too narrow, center to center. They kind of measure their bars a little bit weirdly with those, so I ended up selling those to someone else on eBay and getting these instead, and I've actually been really happy with them. So they're a 26 stem clamp. So the stem that I have is just I think kind of a no brand name one that I sourced from QBP that was just so happened to be silver. And I think the stem length is probably around like 80 to 90 in length, which is just about perfect. This bike originally had Paul thummies at the top, kind of where the bell is sitting up here. And I had 9-speed bar end shifters from Shimano mounted on there that I had taken off of the Surly cross check that I had owned previously, and I actually really liked that setup. I like that it's easy to rebuild and it's very field serviceable, etc. But I don't know, I kind of get bored with my bikes and want to change things up. So I had some 10-speed, I think I had a 10-speed chain and a 10-speed cassette lying around, so I decided that I'd go ahead and go with Sram Apex on here instead. I kind of liked having kind of the traditional shifting up here because to have to move your hands from here to the top of the bar was not the most efficient thing to do, especially if you're trying to shift quickly and gain speed, or if you're trying to climb a hill or something of that nature. It's just a little bit more efficient. So it doesn't match the overall aesthetic of the bike, I realize that, but it's more about a function than a kind of looks situation right now. So it's working well for me. I've had Apex in the past. I had a Raleigh RX, I think 1.0, their women's cyclocross bike that had it. I really liked that drivetrain. I just wasn't too big of a fan of the bike itself and its geometry, so I ended up selling it to a woman in Minnesota. Anyway.
And as it turns out...
Can I just stop you there, Colin?
Surely, Mary, go ahead.
Oh, no, nothing to say. I just really need you to stop talking.
Fair enough.
Let's go down to the derailleur setup. So the Sram GX actually works with those apex shifters, which is really nice. And I believe that cassette I have on there is like an 11, I think it's 1136. Yeah, it's 1136. I don't know where that cassette came from. I think I took it off of another bike that I had, and I don't know, it was in a parts bin, and I was like, well, this is handy. So I was able to get that. And then the GX, it's nice because it has kind of like that clutchy mechanism, that sort of mountain bike style clutch. So with the single speed setup, so I got the Apex crank to match here with some sweet wolf tooth chainring bolts here, and I've really liked it. I've really liked the setup. I like 1x a lot. It just makes your life a little bit easier. This bike is kind of serving a purpose of being a commuter, kind of a grocery getter, light touring bike, etc. So kind of keeping it simple was the whole plan. Just the least amount of crap I could put on the bike that could fail. So this bike is not a disc brake bike. It's the only one left in my stable that is not a disc brake equipped bike, which I don't mind it, but once you kind of go disc, it's hard to go back. The stopping power just isn't quite as reliable. It's not quite the same. So maybe down the road I would strip this bike and build up a double cross disc. That would mean I'd have to buy a new wheel set though, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm just for now gonna live with it and enjoy it. And these little Tektros have been a great option. I really like these Canty brakes. I've had different brakes on this bike. I experimented with Paul Mini Motos, which were really fun, but the way that they routed and this sort of piece that's welded on here for cable routing on the back made it the cable come in at a really kind of weird angle, and I had tried a few different things and it didn't quite work out. So for now, these little Tektros, they're nice. They're fairly low profile. I don't really hit my leg or foot on them too much. So, and they're really easy to adjust and inexpensive. I want to say they're maybe like 25, 30 bucks. I don't quite remember, but I'm a big fan. And I like that you can have the replaceable cartridge pads on there as well. So just easy to adjust and set up, and quite the fan. I want to take a second to talk about these wheels. So these are the Suzu, I believe is how you pronounce it, RX Tour Cross wheels. And they have been extremely reliable. So true. I think I've only maybe tightened one spoke out of the, like, I don't even know how many years I've owned this bike. Many. So I've been really impressed. I think they retailed at the time for around $300 for the wheel set. I have not yet had to replace a bearing. I've had 0 bearing issues with them, and I've been very, 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 very pleased with these. I would definitely buy them again. If they have a disc version of them, I would buy them. They're awesome. I think for the price, it's like a no-brainer, and they're already pre-built and everything. So if you have the chance, I believe Mary Sales or Soma, you can purchase these through their website. I would highly recommend them. Obviously, there's lots of good American-made wheels as well, Velocity and Boyd and other avenues, but if you're kind of looking for something where you're a little bit more budget conscious and you want an alloy wheel set, these are an awesome choice. Definitely check them out. I get asked about this little guy a lot. So this is a product from Paul, Paul. They are out of Chico, California. If you're a bike person, I'm sure you're aware of them, but they make really nice products. They were the same company that make the mini moto brakes that I had used on this bike previously. But this is a little light mount, so it threads into the fork here. As you can see, I have my strut for my front rack on here, and you can put a light on there, or you can put pretty much any sort of accessory that would go around here. So I'd use it for a light. That makes the most sense, but you could get creative with what you put on there. But I really like it. It keeps the light nice and low, so you're not blinding people on the bike path, which happens quite a bit. Blinded by the light. So I'll talk a little bit about how I carry gear on this bike. So this rack that you see right here in front of me is the Marks rack from Nitto, and it's made in Japan, just like the handlebars that are on my bike. And I had to actually buy a separate set of struts to make it work on this particular bike because of where the mid-blade mount is. So the rack itself comes with shorter stays for a fork that has mounts kind of higher up, or I think you can even modify it to possibly mount on your canties. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted something a little bit different. So I got these instead, and they've worked really well. They make the setup nice and clean. The bag I'm using is from Lone Peak, and I was very, very pleased to see that they had this little rack top bag that fits this rack pretty perfectly. So it attaches via Velcro on the underside and then kind of has this little loop on the back here. And it's very secure. I actually keep, for the most part, depending on where I'm going, I like to keep my camera in here, my camera and the microphone. And I like that you can lash something on top. I can use this to put food in, or like a cook set, and then put like a hammock or something on top if I want to. Or like if I'm running to the grocery store, I'll throw like my lock in here and whatever like sundries I need. But you can fit so much stuff in this thing, and it was fairly inexpensive. I want to say, I don't even remember what I paid for it. Maybe 40 bucks, maybe 50 bucks. It's made in the USA. It's not completely waterproof, but it's enough. It has a waterproof zipper on it. So, and I like that there's a little reflective hit. So there's not too many companies that make bags specific for this rack that I've found. I searched. I know that Rivendell does, but as much as I wanted to buy one of their bags, they were about 2 or 3 times more expensive as this bag, and I just kind of liked the color option of this Lone Peak a little bit better. So I've really loved this bag. It's really great. All right, so on the back here I have a rack from MSW, which is QBP's sort of accessory brand. It's their in-house brand that they came up with. And I had been looking for a rack and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to go with. There were some options from Planet Bike, there were some options from Nitto and Surly and some other companies, but I really liked the aesthetics of this rack. I liked how much weight it could carry. I don't remember exactly how many kilograms it says, but it can carry a decent amount. And it has a little light bracket holder on the back too, which is important. So I bought the Night Rider specific one for this particular light, and it works really well. And I carry the Axiom Monsoon panniers, which Axiom I think actually got rid of, which really bums me out because I really like these panniers a lot. So I'm just going to keep using them until I destroy them, and probably either, I don't know, look into something maybe newer in their lineup, or actually I've had my eye on some Arkel panniers because they're made in Canada and they're really nice and high quality products. So I don't run fenders on this bike. I'm not a fenders kind of person, but this bike can take fenders. So as far as pedals, again, I've probably talked about this maybe in other things. I think on my blog, definitely on Spokehaven, I've talked about these, but I use Crank Brothers for my 2-bolt cleat style or my mountain bike style or gravel or whatever pedal system. I just really like them. They shed mud really easily. They're really easy to rebuild. They last a really long time, at least they have for me. I know a lot of people complain about them. They say they've broken them or whatever. I'm 180 pounds usually on average, and which is considered kind of Clydesdale in the world of cycling. And I've not destroyed a set of these yet, knock wood. So I'm not really sure what people are doing with these pedals, but I've used them for mountain biking and road riding and gravel riding and such. And I don't know what people are doing with these things, or if they're just sheer beasts just ripping off the pedal bodies or what's going on. But I've always really liked them. Next thing I know, I'm going to go riding down the road and it's going to fall apart on me. But to be fair,
To be fair.
I've had these pedals for ages, so even if that does happen, whatever. But no, I don't. I really like Crank Brothers. They've always been really good to me, and I continue to use the egg beaters. That's what these are, and the candies are kind of my two favorites. So I realize I haven't gone over the water bottle cages yet, so I've left these out, but these are Velo Orange. I think they're the Modernista or something like that bottle cages, but the reason I really like them is that you can fit these huge bottles in here. So I usually can't fit this one here with a tall bottle, but I can fit this, which is like my big kind of insulated coffee mug thing, with a tall bottle, and it works really well. And they hold the bottles in nicely. It's clean. Again, classic looking aesthetic. I really, really enjoy them. All right, so sort of last but not least is the Compass tires that I have on here. So these are the Barlow Pass. So Compass has rebranded to the name Rene Hers, or I don't even know how you want to pronounce that, or if your bicycle pubes, Reen Hers. If you don't follow Bicycle Pubes on Instagram, please do. It's quite hilarious. But yeah, so the Barlow Pass, they do their names. The names don't really mean anything other than it's just a different tire size. So the Barlow Passes are the 700 by 38C version of this tire. So it's smooth tread. It has an extra light casing. I actually use latex tubes in these. These wheels can't go tubeless, or I guess I haven't really tried, but I don't really want to because it's kind of a pain in the ass to set up a non-tubeless rim tubeless. So, which is why this looks a little wonky. But yeah, so I use latex tubes from Vittoria, and it makes for a really supple, soft, fast ride. So these only have I only run 50 PSI in these things, and they fly. They're super fast, super light, super comfortable. They work really well on the road. They work really well on packed gravel. I just really, really love these tires, and my coworker Eric turned me on to these, and I'm obsessed. They're my new favorite tires, definitely, for sure. So the one thing I can say, though, that's kind of a bummer about the latex tubes is they tend to lose air so much faster than a regular butyl tube, but it's so worth the trade-off. I just know that I have to go down and pump up my tires regularly to not destroy the sidewalls and such, and that's the trade-off I'm willing to make, because the ride quality on these things is just amazing, and they just look beautiful. So they come in a tan sidewall option or a black wall option, so it just adds to the classic aesthetic of this bike, which I really enjoy. So that's about it. So yeah, that's my Soma Double Cross. I've had it for many, many years. I love it. Wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the first bike that I've built up on my own 100%. So I did all the work, research, picked out all the components, and yeah, screwed up some things along the way. And this build even isn't perfect. This cable is way too short, but I didn't have enough housing to fix that, so it is what it is, and I don't care. I'm a bike mechanic, and bike mechanics do weird things to their own bikes that they can kind of get away with when you wouldn't necessarily do that on a customer's bike. So anyway, that's pretty much all there is to it. I really recommend building up your own bike, picking out the components, or even doing a semi-custom build, working with your local bike shop. Most shops can get a Mary Sales account, luckily, so you can pretty much source the frames and forks from wherever, and they can help you come up with a build, or you can do some research on your own and kind of come up with your own components and build something that's really cool and really special, and something that you can kind of evolve and change over the years to kind of fit your needs. Alright guys, so I hope you liked the tour of my bike. I have a really, really soft spot for Soma and that Double Cross, as it's been with me for a very long time, and I don't see myself ever getting rid of it, even though I have bikes that could technically replace it right now. I love it so much. It's so fun to ride, and it's just a really beautiful bike, so let me know what you think of it. Do you have a custom bike that you like? Have you ever built up your own bike from just components, or do you have a fully custom rig or anything like that? You should share it with me. If you want to see kind of more of the journey of the bikes that I've owned and different builds and different components and things, you can visit spokehaven.com. I also post a lot at Spokehaven on Instagram, and you can comment, like, DM me, whatever, send me questions, and share your love of bicycles with me. So hopefully you enjoyed this little tour. If you did, please like, subscribe, follow, all the things that we ask you to do as people who create content on the internet. And I hope everyone's staying safe and staying sane. I'll see you later. Have a good day.